The first rays of sunlight began to filter through the dense jungle canopy, casting long shadows and illuminating the forest floor with a golden hue. Piercing through the dense canopy, the sunlight heralded the beginning of a new day. The jungle, with its thick vegetation and towering trees, came alive with the morning light. From his slumber, the T-Rex stirred. His massive form, hidden among the foliage, began to move. The king of the jungle was waking up. He was the king, the apex predator. His name was Rex. Rex opened his eyes, which gleamed with a fierce intensity. They were like fiery orbs, burning with the primal instinct of survival and dominance. He let out a mighty yawn, a sound that echoed through the jungle, signaling his awakening to all creatures nearby. A tremor ran through the earth as if the very ground acknowledged the presence of its ruler. The Jurassic period was a dangerous time. Only the strong survived in this harsh and unforgiving environment. Rex was the strongest of them all. His sheer size and power made him a force to be reckoned with. The air was thick with the scent of conifer trees and damp earth, a reminder of the ancient world he inhabited. Giant ferns and cycads carpeted the landscape, their lush greenery providing both shelter and sustenance for the creatures of this era. The prehistoric world was alive with sounds. The calls of distant creatures, the rustling of leaves, and the occasional roar of a predator filled the air. In the distance, a herd of sauropods lumbered by, their massive forms shaking the ground with each step. Rex was hungry. He needed to hunt. His stomach growled, a reminder of the primal need that drove him. He rose to his feet, his massive frame towering over the vegetation. The jungle seemed to hold its breath in anticipation, his massive muscles rippling beneath his scaly hide, each movement a testament to his strength and power. It was time to rule the day. Rex, the undisputed king of the jungle, was ready to assert his dominance once more. Rex stomped through the jungle. His footsteps were like thunder. He was a force of nature. He was on the lookout for prey. His sharp senses scanned the environment. He waded through ancient swamps. Giant dragonflies buzzed around him. Pterosaurs soared overhead, their shadows falling on the water. Rex paid them no mind. He was focused on his next meal. The jungle opened up into a vast plain. Herds of herbivores grazed peacefully. There were stegosaurus with their plated backs and triceratops with their horns. Rex licked his lips. He was spoilt for choice. But Rex was a strategic hunter. He wouldn't attack just yet. He would observe. He would wait for the perfect moment. Patience was key. Rex spotted his target. A lone triceratops separated from its herd. It was a formidable opponent, but Rex was confident. He was the king for a reason. He crouched low, hidden in the tall ferns. His eyes never left the triceratops. He was a master of stealth. He waited for the right moment to strike. Then, with a burst of speed, Rex charged. He was a blur of teeth and muscle. The ground trembled beneath his feet. The triceratops saw him coming and turned to face its attacker. The two titans clashed. The sound of their collision echoed across the plain. It was a battle for survival, a true test of strength. The Triceratops was a worthy opponent. Its horns were like spears. It swung its massive head with surprising speed. Rex had to be careful. One wrong move and he could be seriously injured. He dodged and weaved, avoiding the Triceratops' horns. He roared, a sound that shook the very heavens. He bit down on the Triceratops' flank, his teeth sinking into its flesh. The Triceratops bellowed in pain and fought back with all its might. It managed to toss Rex aside, sending him crashing into a tree. Rex shook his head, stunned but not defeated. He needed a new plan. The Triceratops was strong, but Rex was smarter. He would use his cunning to outwit his prey. Section 5. A Mighty Roar. Rex rose to his feet, his eyes burning with renewed determination. He circled the Triceratops, looking for an opening. He roared again, trying to intimidate his opponent. The Triceratops stood its ground. It was a battle of wills, but Rex was relentless. He charged again, this time aiming for the Triceratops' legs. He slammed into the Triceratops with the force of a battering ram. The Triceratops stumbled and fell. Rex saw his chance. He moved in for the kill. With a final triumphant roar, Rex sank his teeth into the Triceratops' neck, crushing its windpipe. The Triceratops went limp, its life extinguished. Rex had won. Section 6. Unexpected Encounter. Rex feasted on his kill. The jungle around him was alive with the sounds of other creatures, but none dared to approach. His powerful jaws tore through flesh and bone with ease, each bite a testament to his dominance. He ate until he could eat no more. His hunger was insatiable, but even a king must rest. The carcass lay in pieces, a grim reminder of the hunt that had taken place. He was the king, and he had earned his meal. His territory was vast, and he ruled it with an iron claw. No other creature dared to challenge him, for they knew the consequences. As he ate, he caught a scent on the wind. It was unfamiliar. His nostrils flared as he tried to identify it. The scent was strong, and it carried a sense of urgency. He lifted his head and sniffed the air. The scent was getting closer, and it was unlike anything he had encountered before. His instincts told him to be cautious. The scent was getting stronger. It was a mix of familiarity and the unknown, a combination that put him on edge. His muscles tensed as he prepared for whatever was approaching. It was another T-Rex, a female. She moved with a grace that belied her size, her eyes locked onto Rex. She was a formidable presence, and her approach was deliberate. She was large, almost as large as Rex himself. Her scales glistened in the dappled sunlight, and her muscles rippled with each step. She was a sight to behold, a queen in her own right. She approached cautiously, her eyes fixed on Rex. There was a tension in the air, a silent communication between the two titans. Each step she took was measured, her gaze never wavering. She was wary, but she was also curious. Her nostrils flared as she took in his scent, trying to determine his intentions. There was a spark of recognition in her eyes, a hint of something more. Rex watched her, his muscles tensed. He was ready for anything, his instincts on high alert. He knew that this encounter could go either way, and he was prepared for both outcomes. He wasn't sure if she was a threat or a potential mate. The line between the two was thin, and he had to tread carefully. His eyes never left hers, watching for any sign of aggression. He let out a low growl, a warning. It was a sound that conveyed both power and caution. He wanted her to know that he was not to be trifled with, but he was also open to the possibility of something more. He wouldn't back down from a fight, even with a female. His territory was his, and he would defend it with his life if necessary. The jungle held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Section 7. The Spoils of Victory. In the heart of the prehistoric jungle, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the air was thick with tension and the scent of fresh kill. The female T-Rex approached the carcass. She was hungry. Her eyes were fixed on the lifeless body of the Triceratops, a prize that promised to satiate her hunger. Each step she took was cautious, her senses on high alert. Rex watched her, his tail twitching. He had been the one to bring down the massive beast, and now he observed the intruder with a mix of curiosity and caution. His eyes narrowed as he gauged her intentions. He could easily scare her away, but something stopped him. Perhaps it was the way she moved, or the desperation in her eyes. He hesitated, a rare moment of contemplation for the mighty predator. He decided to share his kill. It was an unusual decision, driven by an instinct he didn't fully understand. The jungle was a harsh place, and survival often meant fighting for every scrap of food. It was a gesture of dominance, but also a gesture of peace. By allowing her to feed, he was asserting his control over the situation, yet also extending an olive branch in the form of shared sustenance. The female seemed to understand. She approached slowly, her eyes never leaving his. There was a silent communication between them, an understanding that went beyond mere survival. She began to eat, tearing at the flesh with her powerful jaws. The sound of ripping meat filled the air, a reminder of the brutal reality of their existence. Each bite was a testament to her strength and determination. They ate in silence, side by side. The only sounds were the crunching of bones and the tearing of flesh. It was a rare moment of tranquility in a world ruled by chaos and violence. The setting sun cast long shadows across the plain. The golden light bathed the scene in an almost surreal glow, highlighting the stark contrast between life and death, predator and prey. For a moment, there was peace between these two apex predators. It was a fleeting truce, born out of mutual need and respect. In that brief interlude, they were not enemies, but survivors sharing a moment of respite. But it was a fragile peace. The tension was palpable, a reminder that their alliance was temporary. Any sudden movement could shatter the delicate balance they had achieved. Rex knew that the moment the meal was over, their truce would end. He was acutely aware of the dangers that lay ahead. The jungle was unforgiving, and trust was a luxury they could not afford. For now, he would savor the moment. In the fading light of the day, he allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. The spoils of victory were not just the food they consumed, but the fleeting sense of connection in a world where survival was the only constant. Section 8. Twilight's Embrace. As darkness fell, the female T-Rex retreated into the shadows. Rex watched her go, a strange feeling stirring within him. He was alone again, but he didn't feel lonely. He lumbered back towards his lair, his belly full. The stars twinkled above him, a million pinpricks of light in the vastness of the night sky. He entered his lair, a shallow cave hidden amongst the rocks. He lay down, his massive body sinking into the cool earth. He was tired but content. He closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep, the sounds of the prehistoric night lulling him into slumber. Section 9. King of the Jurassic World. Rex slept soundly. He dreamt of hunts and battles, of victories and defeats. He was the king, and his reign would continue. He was a force of nature, a creature of immense power and majesty. He was the T-Rex, and he ruled the Jurassic world.